Hi, I'm Jim Anderson, CEO of Social Flow, and I'm holding this issue of Fortune magazine because Facebook has risen to number 39 on the most recent Fortune 500, and they've done that largely on the strength of their advertising business. Now, you may have seen the news this week that Facebook has announced some changes to how they're handling ad blocking, and what we wanted to do is get past the headlines, which were somewhat alarmist in some cases, and dive into a little bit of the numbers behind it and separate the fact from the fiction here. And what I'm going to do is do a little bit of a whiteboard exercise here and explain to you some of our thinking about what's really going on with Facebook advertising. So I'm going to start out by just looking at their Q2 numbers. Facebook publishes, you can find this out on the web, and their Q2 revenues were an astounding $6.4 billion. That's billion with a B. So a fantastic business, obviously $6.4 billion. You can annualize that. It's a phenomenal business, and you can see why they're rising up the ranks of the Fortune 500. And of course, they did this on the strength of 1.7 billion users around the world. So again, significant usage drives significant revenue when you're in an advertising business. And so what's their revenue per user? They publish that as well. Again, these are all Facebook's numbers available on the web in their filings. $3.71 per user is what they're generating in revenue for the quarter. So if you annualize that, that's about $15 over the course of the year. And so now is where we wanted to do just a little bit of arithmetic. Those of you in the advertising business, which most of you watching are with media companies, sort of understand pretty intuitively how to do this. How many ads per user per day must Facebook be serving in order to generate these kinds of numbers? What's the ad load? And some simple arithmetic here is between 6 and 8 ads per user per day is driving these kinds of numbers. So it's really a phenomenal story, and the ad blocking really is not that big of a story because they've said they're just going to change the desktop experience, and mobile usage is 84% of Facebook's revenue anyway. So it's a fairly small percentage, and if you look at this revenue, if you account for what ad blocking might have been doing in terms of declining Facebook's revenue, it might be $100 to $150 million over the course of the quarter. So if you annualize that, maybe $600 million. So $600 million is a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but on revenue that is $6.4 billion per quarter and annualizes to sort of $25 to $30 billion, we're talking about a relatively small change in terms of Facebook and the impact on the user experience. But again, 6 to 8 ads per user per day adds up to this kind of financial performance and a number 39 spot on the Fortune 500. So how does that relate to you? If you're with a media company, you're saying, wow, Facebook has built a phenomenal business. We all know that. That's great. What does it do for me as a media company? And this is where I want to talk to you a little bit about sponsored editorial, and our name for that is attention stream. So the general idea is that you take the content that you're putting out to Facebook and more broadly social and start to monetize it in new and different ways. And so let's just take some general math here. I'm going to do some similar types of arithmetic. Let's say if you're maybe a reasonably small publisher, maybe you'll do 300 posts per month. That's 10 per day, which seems like a lot if you're maybe a marketer or an individual, but media companies and publishers create a lot of content. So 300 posts per month is not a particularly large number. We actually have clients who produce 30,000 posts per month, just to give you some reference here. I mean, so this is sort of big company, this is small company, at least in the media space. So what about those posts? Some of them are phenomenal, some of them maybe not as well liked by the audience. We have a rule of thumb that we look at, say, the top 15%. So what's 15% of 300 is 45 posts, and what's 15% of 30,000 is 4,500 posts. So we're talking about taking the top 15% of those posts and making those sponsorable by an advertiser. And that's what you do with your advertising relationships with your advertisers. And then, of course, what's the potential dollar? That's the whole exercise that we're going through here. The potential dollars that come from that, of course, depend on how you price it, how you package it, what other types of things that you include in your overall package. But in general terms, if you take a premium CPM or a premium price, because this is your very best content, and you actually package it, say, for 1 million views per high-quality story on a CPM basis, you end up with some numbers that are pretty phenomenal here. So we're talking about maybe $250,000 per month here, or if you're this giant company here, the potential revenue is as high as $25 million. And again, these are monthly numbers we're talking about. $25 million a month annualizes to over $300 million a year, or at $300 million a year. So again, that may sound like a crazy number, but again, remember what we were just talking about. Facebook is serving up 6 to 8 ads per user per day and has generated the 39th most valuable company in the world on the Fortune 500. So real significant scale and power here from the idea of sponsored editorial. And again, one of the interesting things about Facebook is most of the experience is mobile, and mobile is largely immune from ad blocking. Maybe that will change over the course of time, and one of the reasons why this is, I think, an important signaling move for Facebook is that these ads are becoming more and more valuable as video becomes more prevalent, as things like Facebook Live become more prevalent as well. So I think Facebook is just interested in trying to stake its claim and make sure that it's creating a high quality or keeping a high quality ecosystem. And so one of the wonderful things about this sponsored editorial is it is actually surfacing it on mobile devices in the feed and generating real significant revenue for you as a media company. So I hope this arithmetic and behind the scenes information was useful to you. Thanks for joining us this time, and we look forward to seeing you next week.